Hi everyone, welcome back to another gameplay of Infinitode 2. So welcome to another episode of the tutorial guide series. In this episode we're gonna take a look at abilities. Abilities are consumables that you can equip in every one of your games that are gonna help you, especially in the late game, to achieve higher scores and to achieve a higher wave, so be able to survive for longer. Abilities can and must be unlocked before you can even use them in your research tree. So in this top tree you can see that the first ability you unlock is Fireball, then you unlock slowly all the other ones, and as always you can increase their effects, their stats, their damage, their duration. You can actually find the abilities menu in the description on the menu right here before you start any game. And these are the abilities. There are a total of 12 abilities in the game. You can equip up to 6 abilities at once, and if you use these abilities during your games, if you want to use them again, you're gonna need to purchase them. They're gonna require green peppers and resources, or you can also purchase them through these ability tickets. They're gonna restore all the abilities at once, and you can get these tickets through opening chests and through looting. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna equip here the first 6 abilities. We're gonna just take a very quick overview about them, and then I'm gonna just show you on a real game how they work and how to best use them. So first one is Firestorm. Farstone is gonna do a certain percentage of damage, explosion, and then fire damage for a certain amount of time, and enemies killed with this ability are gonna drop 5% bonus coins. You can see that the amount of damage that the ability does depends on the maximum DPS, and this maximum DPS is something that you find in-game, and this is this number right here. This is a combination of the total damage that you can do with all your towers in the game so far. So by attacking enemies have a certain HP percentage, and so you can start stacking this maximum DPS. The more the game goes on, the more HP the enemies get, the higher your maximum DPS becomes, and so your abilities do more and more damage. There are some towers in game that can help you to build a higher maximum DPS faster, but this is something relating another video, so I'm not gonna go in detail about that. Just remember that your damaging abilities scale up with maximum DPS. So the higher this value is, the higher the damage the abilities do. Second ability is Blizzard. It's gonna just freeze all the enemies in the screen for a certain time. That depends on research, and the affected enemies are gonna take 55% more damage. Windstorm. Before the 1.8 patch, this ability was global. Now, unfortunately, it just affects an area. It's going to be a 5x5 tile range, and the enemies in this 5x5 tile range are going to be pushed backwards for a certain amount of time. And it's going to also delay the next enemy wave by 9 seconds. Thunder, random electricity charges. In this case, depending on how much you research, this number can increase and the amount of damage can increase. Enemies killed with this ability are gonna drop 110% bonus coins. Smoke Bomb is gonna do damage over time, so damage per second for a certain amount of time. That depends, of course, on research in a very small area. And enemies killed with this ability are gonna drop 10% bonus coins. And lastly, the last ability, in this case for the ones I have equipped, is Farstone. This is a global ability, so affects all the enemies in the screen, and it's going to do a certain percentage for a certain duration, depending on research. And the enemies killed are going to drop 15% less coins. Now quickly just evaluating the abilities, and as I start this game, abilities do not cost, like for towers and modifiers, they do not cost coins. In order to use them, you're gonna need energy, and this is the energy bar, and the energy bar recharges and over time, and it's gonna recharge 1 energy per minute, so every 60 seconds. You can decrease this energy generation time through research. The maximum amount of energy you can hold at once is 10 with normal research. With endless research, the research is 30. And yeah, you can see that as the abilities become available, when you get enough energy, they become highlighted. And yeah, that's just pretty much it. You can see these dots right here is the energy cost of each ability. So for example, for Fireball, the cost is going to be 2 energy. And yeah, let's start looking at these abilities. So Fireball, remember, is going to do damage explosion and then damage over time if the enemies can survive the first explosion damage. You need to click on the area where you want to apply the ability. So in this case, for example, if I want the ability to be applied at the beginning right here, I need to click right here. And all the enemies caught in the explosion that are now in the screen are going to receive that damage. And yeah, so that's how Fireball works. Very, very easy. Second ability is Blizzard. Now in this case, once again, you can stun the enemies that are on the screen. So new enemies spawning after you use the ability are not gonna be frozen, are not gonna be stunned. And yeah, let's just use it right now so you can see it. All right. Actually, the new enemies get the icon. So because of the fact that during the duration of the ability, enemies take the increased amount of damage, even if they are newly spawned, but they're not gonna get frozen. So that's the only different thing. Now remember that the abilities have the same effects as towers. So for example, icy enemies with their shield up, they are immune to Blizzard, because like icy enemies with their shield is on, they are immune to slow, so you can't freeze them. So yeah, just remember. Next ability, Windstorm, is gonna cost 3 energy in this case, so a pretty expensive ability. And once again, a 5 tile range. Enemies caught in this area are gonna push backwards. So could you see there? Very, very simple. Next is Thunder. In this case, these are gonna be random electricity charges. And even if there are no enemies in the screen, as you're gonna see that the charges keep on falling. So that's very, very cool. So you never waste this ability. And even if there are not enough enemies in the screen to like kill right away, you can always like keep on attacking them as they spawn. Next ability is Smoke Bomb. In this case, it's gonna affect only a very small part of the map, so you're gonna just be able to select the spot that you think is the most useful one. And if you use it, you can see this is the area, and enemies like in this area are gonna receive damage over time, damage per second as they are inside. And yeah, very similar to Venom, to the Venom's Tower level 10 ability. So it's like a cloud poison. And yeah, it's gonna last, in my case, for the research I have, 30 seconds. Yeah, so that's Smoke Bomb. Let's just wait here to have enough energy for Farstone. And it's very, very important for the abilities because of this energy cost. It's very important to use your energy wisely. Don't use too many abilities at once, because that's gonna mean that you're gonna run out of energy very quickly and you might not be able to use any more abilities. So always be careful about how you use your energy. And lastly, let's showcase a Firestorm. In this case, this ability is a global ability that affects all the enemies in the screen, and it's a finisher pretty much. It deals pretty decent damage, and when you use it, it's gonna set all the enemies on the screen on fire, and they're gonna be receiving a damage over time effect that scales up with maximum DPS, of course, and that can be increased through research. And also how much this burning lasts can be increased through research. And yeah, that's Firestorm, and that's it. So once again, Firestorm is going to be 3 energy, so pretty expensive ability. And now let's move on to the next 6 abilities. So Magnet, Bullet Wall, Wall Lightning. And once again, I'm gonna just cover here briefly the description. So Magnet, is gonna just make all the projectiles fly into one single tough enemy. The projectiles are gonna do 215% bonus damage for, in this case, 5 seconds. If the enemy is killed during this duration, so before the 5 seconds are over, magnet is gonna be applied to another enemy, so to the next toughest enemy, and that's pretty much it. Enemies killed in this way are gonna drop 60% bonus coins. And now magnet, a huge change compared to the 1.8 update is that like before the 1.8 patch, magnet was used to build up a very high maximum DPS because of the fact that you can make all the projectiles fly into a certain enemy, and using explosions with cannon and missiles, it was the best way to build up a very high maximum DPS. But now it can't be used anymore like this. So magnet now doesn't increase your maximum DPS. So yeah, that's just it. Bullet wall, this row of bullets that are gonna fly across the map from left to right, and the amount of which you have, the amount of damage depends on research. Enemies killed in this way are gonna drop 60% bonus coins. Ball lightning, one of the most useful abilities in the game. This ball is gonna follow up the enemies. It's gonna damage up to 3 of them. With not very high maximum DPS, but very quickly. And the amount of damage, the amount of time it lasts depends on research. And enemies killed with this ability are gonna drop 5% bonus coins. Loik, this is a big laser, vertical, so just a vertical laser that doesn't move, that crosses the entire screen. That deals a certain maximum DPS per second for a certain time, that depends on research. And once again, enemies are gonna drop 5% bonus coins. Nuke is the second offensive global ability that's gonna just do very high percentage of maximum DPS to every single enemy on the screen. And enemies killed this way, exactly like it was for Firestorm, are gonna drop 15% less coins. And finally, Overload. Overload is the new ability that has been added in the 1.8 patch. And this ability has some benefits, but also some cons. So it has both of them. So you have to be careful how you use it. The good effects are the fact that enemies killed are going to give 10% more score, and that mining speed is increased during this ability. The bad thing is that the HP and the speed of enemies is also increased for the duration. So they are tougher and they move faster. And you can stack multiple effects if you use another overload when another one is already active. And yeah, but it's just better to show it because, like, unfortunately, just reading them without really trying them, it's very hard. So let's wait again for the energy bar to recharge. One thing that I didn't say before is that Thunder, so the ability Thunder, doesn't do any damage to armor enemies, because armor enemies are immune to lightning. Exactly as a smoke bomb that deals poison damage, you can't damage venom enemies with it, because of the fact that toxic enemies, so these venom enemies, are immune to poison. So remember that each ability has the same weaknesses as the tower, so enemies can be immune to certain abilities. And for example, like ball lightning, because it's lightning once again, armor enemies are immune to the ability. Alright, so let's take a look here at Magnet. Now unfortunately, to be able to show Magnet, I need to use another tower, because of the fact that Magnet works exceptionally well with towers that have projectiles. So multi-shot, splash, cannon, venom, missile, only these towers, and also a little bit of the basic tower, but especially it's like multi-shot, splash and missile that are gonna be the ones that are gonna really be exploiting this ability, because of the fact that you can see how many projectiles from multi-shot here are wasted, because of the fact that, well, they're just going straight, right? If I use Magnet, look what happens. one enemy is magnetized, and therefore all the projectiles are always gonna fly towards that single enemy, and they're gonna do increased damage. So that's how magnet works. You can see also the duration, and if the enemy is killed, another enemy is marked. So that's how magnet works. Now let's move on to bullet wall. This ability is just very bad in my opinion. It's just this row of bullets that go from left to right, and the enemy is caught by the bullets are gonna receive damage. Definitely this ability works well on maps that are vertical, where like the enemies move from the top towards the bottom or from the bottom towards the top. And but yeah, overall it's a pretty bad ability. Like I've used it very rarely. Next is ball lightning. Once again, this is one of the most useful abilities in the game because of the fact that it lasts some pretty decent time and it deals continuous damage and it follows up the enemies. So it keeps on following them, it keeps on damaging them until the very end. And even if you misclick it, for example, when you use a ball lightning here in this bottom right corner, you can see that it still deals damage and then it gets closer to the enemies. So it's a very useful ability. Only one energy cost, so very cheap as well. And yeah, so that's just it. Next is Loik. Loik is very similar to bullet wall, but it's gonna be more expensive because it's gonna do more damage. And yeah, it's this vertical laser, right? When enemies get across it and get close to it, they're gonna be receiving the damage. But yeah, this ability definitely works better on maps that are vertical. And now next one is Nuke. Now Nuke is the most expensive ability in the game because it costs 4 energy. This ability is also the one that's going to do the highest amount of damage, and it's going to affect the entire screen. The main weakness is the fact that, well, it's a one-time use, so only the enemies on the screen are going to be receiving damage, and so yeah, it's just it. So I'm gonna just wait here a little bit to use it when there are some more enemies maybe in the screen. Yeah, maybe now. So that's it. Once again, because it's global, it's not important where you drop it, and all the enemies are gonna be just receiving this huge amount of damage. This ability normally like one-shots the enemies. Of course, if you play long enough and enemies start having millions and millions of HP, even if you have a very high maximum DPS, you might not be able to one-shot the enemies, but you can at least like weaken them a lot. Oops. And now finally Overload. I lost there a lot of lives. Anyway, let's just take a look at Overload. So Overload is one of the most useful abilities that has been added because of the fact that it just makes you be able to earn more score and to increase the mining speed of your miners. See that now it's 4.0 and you can stack it. So you can use another Overload as the first one is active, and see that now it's ×2. So all the effects of it are like doubled. So the miners are even faster, you get more score, but the enemies are quicker and they have more HP, so they are tougher to be destroyed. And you can use it as many times as you can, depending on how much energy you have and depending what you prefer. You can really stack it up to 10 times on normal or up to 15 times on endless. Of course, if you stack it like after you stack it like 9 or 10 times, the enemies become so tough and they move so quick that it's very hard to survive unless you use other abilities. So yeah, that's just one thing. And yeah, that's just the overview for all the abilities. Now, before going to research, I'm gonna just show you my personal preference of the abilities, because I think that I know there are some abilities that you're always gonna have. So your master abilities are Lightning Ball and Overload. So these two abilities are gonna be your must. And these are the abilities you're always gonna equip, no matter which map you're playing, no matter which strategy you're using or whatever. Overload increases your score and increases your mining speed, so it gives you more resources, and you have to just use it wisely. But if you use it like 3 times with a pretty decent defense, it should be good enough. And then of course ball lightning for the very high damage, very nice duration, and also very low energy cost. Now on the other 4 slots, it really depends on what you need, what you prefer, on which map you're playing. I recommend to go at least with one ability that is global, so either Farstone or for example Nuke. You can go with both of them, you can go with one of them. Remember that they're pretty expensive, so if you use one Nuke, then you use another one, it's already 8 energy, so you're not gonna really have much energy left. But at least one global ability, I think it's always a must. And now in the other 3 spots, well, you can really place whatever you prefer. Sometimes Fireball, it's a good option, sometimes Blizzard. Windstorm is not really that great now after the like the nerf, so I don't really recommend it to use it. Either Fireball, Blizzard, Thunder as well for the early game can be good. Smoke Bomb can be very good in certain maps. Or Nuke, as I said before. So depending on which you prefer, on which you might like more, or stuff like that, you can go for a combination or for one of these. And yeah, just remember that ball lightning, overload, and at least one global ability are your must. The other ones, in the other slots, you can equip whatever ability you might think is going to allow you to survive any longer. And yeah, just be careful about the energy, remember. And yeah, now for the very end of the video, we're gonna just take a look at research, because as I said before, you can increase the amount of abilities you can have at once. You can increase their stats as always through research. And the last abilities that you unlock is actually overload. I think it's the last one you can unlock up here in the tree. And now let's talk about also endless, because with endless, on endless research, you can increase also your energy pool up to 30. So instead of having 10 energy max, you can have a 30 energy max, so that's of course a lot more. And also you can decrease the amount of time it takes to generate the energy. So this is something that you only have on endless, and it's very, very useful. And of course, other than that, you can equip up to 15 abilities, and you can increase their stats by a lot. So yeah, that's just it. Another thing that I want to say is that also through the star research and through the trophies, you can also increase certain stats from certain abilities. So yeah, just remember that also here you can increase your abilities, and you can increase, for example, you can decrease the energy generation time, you can increase the damage, and you can just increase a bunch of other abilities. So depending when you want and you prefer, you can also go with that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and see ya. Bye bye.